Hi ladies, it's Valerie. I hope you're all doing well. This is actually going to be my Veda number 13 video. Last night I just punked out, totally didn't do it, so I'm going to fess up immediately. But this is going to be a review of what I learned from our breastfeeding class in our Bradley method class. So, and this is the beginning of my series reviewing all of our Bradley classes. Tomorrow will be, well, Veda 14, I will be reviewing class 3, which is nutrition and fitness and some of those things during pregnancy. And then tomorrow, Veda 15, will be a break in the Bradley series because I'm going to just do my weekly update. So anyway, enough with that. I think I'm going to have a ton to talk about with breastfeeding. I'm going to hopefully get it under 10 minutes, but it might not happen. So first thing in our Bradley class, it was taught, the great thing about my Bradley instructor is that she is an international board certified lactation consultant, on IBCLC for short. Those are trained lactation consultant specialists, and they really know what they're talking about. Aside from just having, you know, a labor and delivery nurse at the hospital, which they are great, but an IBCLC is somebody who they devote their life to, lactation consultant. They are very, very knowledgeable. They're experts in that field. So the first thing we started out with is a picture of your boob. So a picture of, basically the anatomy, which I can really appreciate being a biology, having a biology degree, being a major nerd. So just to show you, here again. So this is, oh gosh, this is backwards. I'm probably not going to be able to do it. It just shows you the chest wall, the pec muscles that are underneath, which are right there. Lobules, which is where the milk is produced. These little clusters that look like grapes. Nipple contains multiple openings for the milk sinuses. The areola, again, is the area, the colored area around the nipple. And this, you may have heard of Montgomery glands or tubules that helps to clean the nipple. There's oils that are secreted on there. Sorry, I'm like out of the frame. I'm trying to look at this. Let's see. Lactiferous sinuses is where the milk pools following a letdown, and that's in these little guys right here. And then you've got your fatty tissue and your skin. So just a brief anatomy of the breast and anatomy and physiology of the breast. So colostrum is going to be that, the clear yellowish fluid that's in the breast at the time of birth. It's wonderful. It's like liquid gold, basically. It coats the linings of your baby's intestines to prepare it to receive the mature breast milk that you're going to produce in the next few days. Colostrum is also amazing form of natural immunization. It, the mother's mature immune system passes on to your antibodies via this colostrum. So there are microscopic preparations in the lining of the baby's intestine that helps to get these antibodies into their system really quickly. Colostrum is also a laxative. Meconium is that first poop that your baby's going to take. It's what's in the baby's intestines at the time of the birth. So it's really thick, it's really tarry, it's sticky, and colostrum, being this natural laxative, is going to be very gentle on the baby's system. It's going to give it tons and tons of antibodies and immunities, just really great things, and it's also going to help with that first bowel movement. It also can help reduce jaundice. Let's see. I will go ahead and say, just kind of up front, that I do understand that there are reasons why people cannot breastfeed. There are, I totally get that. I totally get that there are reasons you can't breastfeed, that supplementation is necessary. I get all of that, and so I'm not making any judgments. I'm just coming on here straight to say, the benefits of breastfeeding, some of the benefits and disadvantages of not breastfeeding, and also, I understand that, I'm not bashing formula feeding or anything at all. I do believe that breastfeeding is best. I do believe that it offers far more advantages than formula ever could. But with that being said, I have never done it before. I don't know if I'll be able to breastfeed. I am, hoping and praying that I will, and I'll be able to produce, what my body, what I need to produce for my baby. But I also want to say that I think that it's incredibly important, not only like taking in this knowledge and doing this research on breastfeeding before you do it, but I think that it's also very, very important to have a support system around you. Now, there is the Little HA League, which I'm a little bit frustrated that they offer mainly their meetings are during the day, during the weekday, because as a working mom, again, I'll be able to maybe make some of those meetings when I am on maternity leave, but working moms so desperately need the support. I don't want to say more than stay-at-home moms, but working moms have other challenges that really, really prevent them, and are really, get discouraged. And I'm saying this from, not from experience, obviously, but I've had several friends, tens of, of friends who have gone back to work and tried to breastfeed, and, it's so discouraging, it's so frustrating for them. And so, I don't know if the Little HA Leagues in your area have better time offerings, meeting offerings, but, I just know that in our area, they aren't, they aren't offered at a time where working moms can take advantage of those. And so I really feel like there needs to be something more, and I am planning on contacting our league, our local league, to discuss this a little bit more and to see if we can do something, because it certainly needs to be available for those working moms as well who are trying to exclusively breastfeed. It's just tough. So with that being said too, breastfeeding is natural, and I know that this video is going to go over 10 minutes, so I'm not going to get it posted till later, but breastfeeding is natural. That does not mean that it is easy, that it's not frustrating, that it is not uncomfortable. So again, I think, taking all of this in before you during your pregnancy, before you get to breastfeeding, kind of anticipating some of the challenges that you might have. And you know what, if you don't face those challenges, great. But if you do, you're going to know that you're not a failure, you're not doing it wrong, and you can get help. It's perfectly, fine, especially in our culture. Our culture right now is not supportive of breastfeeding exclusively. Honestly, it's not. It's also not, supportive of natural remedies and natural birth, honestly. And I think that, back in the day when things were done naturally, there wasn't quite the discouragement and the frustration there might be now, because it was common. You could, you did have that support of your sisterhood. And I am so grateful for the girlfriends that I do have that have kids already and who have breastfed, because I feel like I will have, at least somewhat of a support network. And I just feel, again, that is so huge. Also that your spouse is, or your partner, whoever, is very supportive of you and is going to encourage you and not, make you feel frustrated or like you're failing. I think that it's very important that they aren't suggesting that you start with formula, or oh, well, if your body just can't do it, then let's just, let's have formula on hand, or, whatever. I do, like I said, I understand that there are times and places for when formula supplementation is necessary. Your baby, their health and their nutrition comes first, absolutely. But I feel like a lot of, on the flip side, I feel like a lot of the moms that I have known who have not breastfed, either A, haven't been encouraged, they haven't been supported, or in those very early days when they're producing colostrum, they're kind of waiting on that mature milk to come in. They've been basically told that their supply isn't there and then they're not producing, when really, your baby's stomach is about the size of a very small marble, when they are born. That colostrum, your body knows what it's doing. You're producing the exact amount that your baby needs most of the time, unless, barring any other circumstances that would prevent you from doing that, or, anatomically, cause problems. if everything is going the way it should, then your body knows what it's doing. The amount of colostrum your body is producing and the amount that your child is nursing is going to be plenty for its little tiny system to handle, and it will grow over that next week in size to the size of a larger shooter marble, and then also I think to a ping pong ball is like the next kind of reference that they give. So just keep that in mind. I just think knowledge is so powerful. Okay, moving on. The next thing that we learned is that, the signs that your baby is going to give when they're hungry, they're going to give you early feeding cues. So ideally you would have, also, before you even breastfeed, the best start you can give your baby and your body for breastfeeding is having a natural unmedicated birth. If you read, and I've shown this to you guys before, if you read the La Leche Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, you will completely get that from this book. It very much is encouraging of that natural unmedicated birth, having that baby place skin to skin on you right after, so excuse me, so that it can nurse pretty much on demand within the first hour. Very, very important. And your body will be responding, your hormones will be responding, and the baby will be responding during that time. So the early feeding cues that you might see are, they might have their fists balled up, closed tight fists, rapid eye movement just before they're waking, mouthing their fists or their hands. So, sticking their hands or their fists in their mouths, trying to, kind of suckle on those. Rooting, which is like bobbing their head, looking for the breast. Sucking on their tongue. Crying is a late feeding cue. Most babies are easier to latch before they become frustrated, and crying. So again, if your baby's crying and they're, they're very upset, it's going to be a lot more difficult to latch, even if that is what they want. It's a lot easier if you can get those with those early feeding cues. You've got some positions to hold the baby when you're nursing. There's a clutch or a football hold, which is where I can't really show you right now. It's where you're kind of holding them on one side and they're nursing from the breast that you're holding them on. There's also the cradle hold or the cross cradle hold, or there's also the sideline position. And I will try to find some photos in the book really quickly to show you the positions that are best for them. Let's see, this is kind of one of the lying down holds. My poor book was broken. Let's see. Holds. Sorry, guys. Didn't quite think about this one beforehand. Let's see if I can find the cradle hold for us, and maybe that'll have some other 70 and 71. That's where it just was. So I don't know why it doesn't show more more pictures of the positions. But there's another side lying position. But you can look up those different types of holds, and again, that was something again that was very, very helpful to have this class, and I highly recommend taking a breastfeeding class. We are actually going to retake the class next week, just because we want the knowledge. But again, you can look up those holds. It's the clutch or the football hold, the cradle hold, the cross cradle hold, and in bed on your side. So I think one of the biggest challenges that people have when they're breastfeeding is not holding, not figuring out if their milk is coming or anything like that. Now, maintaining a supply and developing your supply I do think is a challenge, but I think one of the hardest things that I've heard from a lot of my girlfriends is the pain that they experience and the discomfort that they experience with their breasts and with their nipples, specifically when they first start feeding. And I think a lot of this comes, and I can't say that any of my friends who breastfeed have taken a breastfeeding class, so I think that a lot of it does come from being uninformed. So you want to help your baby achieve a good latch. They know how to suckle. You and the baby are both learning how to do this thing together. So you have to also help them. So I'm just going to read what it talks about the latch, and I'll show you a photo. So here's a photo of what your baby, should be doing. You've got your areola here. Dr. Jack Newman is an amazing doctor. He is, I don't know exactly what type of doctor he is actually, but he's the name in breastfeeding. So I think it's drjacknewman.com. He says, he has a saying that says it's called breastfeeding, not nipple feeding. If your baby is suckling just on that nipple, it is going to be very, very painful. And what was the example that she gave in class? Oh, I can't remember. But anyway, the best latch is an off-centered latch with the baby's bottom lip as far away from the nipple as possible. So if this is your nipple, you want the baby's, the baby's bottom lip needs to be as far away from that nipple as possible. The mouth is wide open like a yawn. The baby's bottom is pulled in close to the mother's body. The chin comes in contact with the breast first. So again, this is awful, but like if this is the nipple, your breast would be here on either side, and your baby's, chin would be in the contact with that breast. And then there's space between the nose and the breast, so they shouldn't be smushed into your chest. This is going to help your baby get more areola, so that more of that area around the nipple. And the tongue and the lower jaw is what compresses the areola and the milk ducts behind the areola. The milk is not stored in your nipple. That's where it's coming out of. But those ducts, if you remember looking at our anatomy, those ducts are here. There's nothing sucking and pinching on that nipple is going to do. I'm so sorry if this is like the weirdest video. But I really think that it would be helpful. If that baby's jaw is pressing here and the nipple is just barely in that mouth, then they are pressing down on these ducts and getting that milk out. And that's what you want. So again, I know this is probably way easier said than done, but again, I think having this information helps. So how do you know if the baby is drinking the milk? You can tell that the baby is drinking milk when the chin drops down low, which allows their mouth to fill with milk, and then they're going to swallow it. Sometimes you can hear like a little sound, like a sound when the baby drinks, like a little air sound. You can look for a pause and then the chin dropping down. You want to allow the baby to nurse on the same breast as long as possible. We were able to watch videos with these, so again, if you go onto Dr. Jack Newman's website, you will be able to see some great videos. I would highly recommend them. How is the amount of milk produced determined? Milk production is based on two things. It's the frequency of nursing and the draining of the milk from the breast. When your baby nurses, your stretch receptors in the nipple are triggered, and that sends a message to your brain that the baby's nursing. The brain then sends the oxytocin through the mother's body, causing the muscle cells around the milk glands to contract and push the milk forward. This is called the milk ejection reflex. The brain is also producing prolactin during this time, and that also stimulates milk production. Draining the milk from the breast is also important. If the milk builds up behind your breast, this is going to signal to your brain that the baby doesn't need this milk. So your body is going to reduce the amount of milk that it's producing. That's why it's important to get a proper latch, because if the baby can effectively remove the milk from the breast, then if that milk is all removed, and the body's going to say, hey, this isn't enough for the baby, let's produce more milk. So it's also very important for that baby to get that mature hind milk. That first milk that that comes out of your breast every time is going to be not as concentrated. It's going to be more watery. Whereas once they've established their good latch and they're going to get that good, rich hind milk that has a lot of vitamins and nutrients and everything that they need and proteins. So let's see, how often and for how long should I nurse my baby? During the first 2 to 3 months, a newborn's going to nurse about 10 to 12 times within 24 hours. A newborn may nurse 20 to 30 minutes each session, and that's until they develop that muscle strength and they've gotten the latch down. And then once this is accomplished, they can be really, really efficient, and it can maybe only take 10 to 15 minutes per session. And always allow the baby to nurse for as long as they continue to drink on the first side. And then you want to burp them and change the baby if you need to. And then you offer the second side for as long as they drink. And then with the next nursing session, you want to start with the breast that you finished with previously. So, you just want them to nurse as much as possible to get that high-calorie hind milk. let's see. How often should your baby have a wet or soiled diaper, and what should it look like? Again, we talked about meconium, what that's going to look like. As the baby drinks the colostrum, it's going to turn brown, and then as the mature breast milk comes in, the diaper contents is going to be like a yellowish, like a mustardy color, and that's what it should look like when the baby is drinking mature breast milk exclusively. So, and there's different ways to tell based on their diaper contents. If they're not getting enough hind milk, it's probably going to look kind of watery and like pureed spinach. That's gross, but that's what it will look like. And the babies will also be very gassy and cranky and not really gain weight well. So, and if they're getting enough milk, hind milk, they should have about 6 to 8 wet diapers and at least 3 good soiled diapers in a 24-hour period. They should be content between feedings, and they should be growing and gaining weight well. So again, these things are going to vary with you and your baby. I mean, every baby is different, every body is different, but those are just some guidelines. What causes sore nipples? I kind of touched on this. When the latch is incorrect, your baby's tongue is going to come in contact with the nipple, and instead of, the areola, and it's going to be pressing your nipple again up. Their tongue is going to be pressing it up against the roof of their mouth, and that's going to be very, they can suck very hard, very efficiently. So that's going to hurt because they are little powerful things. So, and that compression is what causes that sore nipple. And it's also the flow of the milk is going to be decreased, and your baby's not going to be getting enough milk. So again, you always, try to get that perfect latch as soon as you can. Also, another thing, tongue ties, either anterior or posterior tongue ties, can be the cause of sore nipples, because if their tongue is tied, which is just a little extra skin underneath their tongues, they can't get their tongue out far enough, so they're not going to be able to breastfeed correctly. And again, that's what I was going back to earlier, saying as long as there's nothing anatomically wrong with either of you, your body should know what it's doing. It should be able to do what it needs to do. But again, something like a tongue tie is going to keep, it's going to cause problems, and that's something that needs to be discussed with you and your pediatrician. So there are some other things to talk about. This video is getting quite long. I may do a second part. I think I will do a second part after we retake the class next week, but that is just an introduction. There are some other things, talking about engorgement, breast infection, challenging situations, going back to work, pumping and storing, and some storage guidelines. But other than that, that was just a really brief and long introduction. So maybe next week I will review the benefits of breastfeeding. I have a whole, other sheet of the benefits of breastfeeding, benefits for mothers and the babies, and all of those different things. So I hope that this video was helpful. I, again, have not started breastfeeding yet. I'm hoping to breastfeed with all of my heart. I'm hoping to exclusively breastfeed. However, I am keeping my mind open, to whatever needs to be done. And of course, my baby's nutrition and health comes first. I hope that this was helpful. And if you have any questions, leave them below. I am going to plan on retaking our breastfeeding class next week. So if there's something that I don't have the answer to, I can always ask our instructor and get the answer for you, hopefully. So, all right. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.